All right. So, hello everyone. Um, my name is Noa Lakshmi. For those of you that I don't know, which it's pretty much all of you here. And this is the topic that I am presenting today is something that I'm becoming more and more passionate about, the healing of the masculine. That we've been focusing a lot on the feminine in the last few years, which is very necessary. The wounded feminine, the divine feminine, and what is has started to become more and more present for me is how much the masculine is wounded as well. And with all this attention that we've been giving, I'm just looking at the chat here. You want me to start my video to see me?
Only if you want to.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I didn't even notice that.
Okay.
Here I am. Hello, everyone. Yes, putting a face to the voice. It's always nice. So to continue what I said, so much focus that we have been giving to the divine feminine, and it's a necessary piece of our healing journey as humanity and women and men. And I am becoming more and more present to how much the divine masculine and the masculine and men are actually wounded, and that it's not the easiest thing for men to actually access their own divine feminine that lives in each and every one of us. It's not just for women. And that men are starting to embrace their healing journey more now. And with Jupiter also going into Libra in the next 12 months, that Jupiter is going to be in Libra, the whole concept of harmony and balance is going to be very predominant. And I feel that in order to restore the balance and the harmony on the planet and humanity, we've got to treat the feminine and the masculine equally in terms of the attention that we give also to the healing journey of both the masculine and the feminine. So what I'm going to present here today is the concept of healing of the divine masculine, and see Mars as the representer of the masculine. And I put a few charts tracking from 2012 to 2016 till now, and kind of looking at what Mars has been through and what Mars is doing right now, and different aspects and different journeys that Mars has been on, and also in relation to Venus as well, and seeing the Venus as the feminine and Mars as the masculine, and how the feminine has been supporting the masculine when it comes to what Venus is doing in relation to what Mars is doing, and what Venus has been going through versus to what Mars has been going through. So I'm going to talk about the years when Mars was in retrograde, and today, and this year was a year of Mars in retrograde, which happens every 2 years, and different aspects and things that Mars has been encountering. So I'll start sharing my screen and show what I have. Here we go. Let me just do a full view here. Okay. So healing the divine masculine, Mars cycles through the cosmic clock. And of course I could go way back, but I thought to keep it concise and just focus on 2012 until now, and just a little bit into the future, 2018. And as we know, 2012 was a very significant year when it comes to our awakening and the healing journey that so many people woke up to or started to deepen. So 2012 was definitely, I know for me, for my own life, a big shift year. I was also going through or finishing my Saturn return then, so it was a turning point for me and for humanity. I know it was a big year of awakening that was a catalyst for what we are experiencing right now. So going into this first slide here with 2012. So like I said, I'm going to focus on the years when Mars was in retrograde as well, because it happens only every couple of years. And when Mars goes in retrograde, as we know, Mars likes to move forward and it likes to move fast. And when it goes in retrograde, it's there's a lot of power in that when it comes to Mars actually having to slow down and be in this introspection mode. And those are important years. And if I look at Mars, a symbol for the masculine, I feel those years are significant when it comes to the healing journey of the masculine and from men as well. And the opportunity to actually slow down the fire or reevaluate the fire, reconsider how we do things, reconsider our action, everything that comes with the retrograde period. And usually it's a period of 2 or 3 months. And so 2012, Mars was in retrograde in the sign of Virgo. And Virgo, as we know, where did we go? Here we go. Virgo, as we know, represent purity and reality. Virgo is service as well. And the awakening that happened back in 2012 brought up this urge within all of us, a deeper urge to act from a place of service, from a place of helping the earth and be of service to the earth, which that's what Virgo represents as well. It's our reality and it's our Mother Earth. And also what I've tracked, which is very interesting, is how much Uranus, the planet Uranus, has been a very active part and has been playing a very active role in this healing journey of the masculine. And if you look at this chart right here, we had the spring equinox. This is March 22nd of 2012. It was so fascinating to go back and like, oh my God, the things that took place and related into my life as well and my own healing journey and the whole game of feminine and masculine. And I want to invite you as well to look back at your life and your own journey of finding balance between the feminine and the masculine and healing those energies within you. And maybe if you have men in your life that you can think about as well. But we had the spring equinox and the new moon on March 22nd. It was in Aries. And as you can see, it was a conjunction with Uranus. So as we know, Uranus is the big awakener. And it's the force that moves us to higher planes, to innovate, to upgrade, to do things differently. And this whole thing was such a renewal, such a big renewal. Spring equinox, new moon, a new moon that is conjuncting the sign of the planet Uranus. And in the sign of Aries, which is the sign that is associated with the planet Mars, this was a big awakening for the masculine. And the fact that Uranus actually is also in Aries, and it's going to be in Aries until 2018, which we're going to move into Taurus, and then it's going to be more of a Venusian influence into Uranus. But right now, the fact that Uranus is in Aries, associated with Mars, is that the awakening of the masculine, the awakening of this force within the masculine to actually do things differently. And the wounding of the feminine and the wounding and the state of the planet that we're experiencing right now and the state of humanity has a lot to do with the patriarchy and the mind frame that men live in. And so there's this big awakening, and Uranus urges all of us to do things differently and approach our masculine energy in a different way. Also, the fact that Mars was in retrograde in the sign of Virgo and it was squaring the moon's nodes. So if you look at Mars right here, it was squaring the nodes of the moon in the north node in Sagittarius, which is new horizons and expansion and growth. And then the south node in Gemini, and Mars was almost an exact square to that. So another aspect of like, look at me, pay attention to Mars, and how can we do things differently so we can actually move in a direction of new horizons and growth. And there's some belief systems that need to be changed in order for us to move forward. And to add to the party, this was a powerful new moon, March of 2012. Mars was in exact opposition to Chiron. Exact. I mean, my jaw dropped when I saw that. 6 degrees and 55 minutes, 6 degrees, 55 minutes. Like that cannot be more exact than that. Chiron, the wounded healer, calling for healing of the wounds, the healing journey of the masculine, a big opposition too. So there's definitely, it didn't come easily, but that's what awakening is all about. And we see this big grand cross that is happening during this new moon. And as we know, a grand cross is definitely forces that are urging us to change, to move, and to do things differently. And it was a mutable cross as well. Immutable is all about change. And to look at Venus and what Venus was doing during this time, Venus was very strong actually in Taurus, which is her home. So she was very comfortable and supporting. That's how I see it, when Venus is very strong while Mars is just going through it with all these oppositions and squares. Venus is sitting there in her home, conjuncting the planet Jupiter, and also in a grand trine in Earth with Mars and Pluto. So transformation, growth, transformation, death, and rebirth, and in an Earth element. So really stabilizing this immense force of change. And that's the support that the feminine is able to provide the masculine on their healing journey. So that was 2012, the new moon. And then we're moving into 2014. And of course, there's more that happened in 2012, but I'll just keep it at that because it was very, very profound, that day itself. And 2014, it was a heck of a year for Mars, and 2016 as well. So as I was going back and looking at different days and different charts of different moments, I was quite, there was a lot of compassion that I felt within me, understanding what the masculine is really going through, just looking at through the lens of astrology. In 2014, 2016 hasn't been easy, but definitely necessary piece for the masculine to go through in order for a deeper healing to take place for the sake of our planet and humanity at large. So going into 2014, this is the last day of February here, February 28th. And we had, Mars was in retrograde in Libra. And as we know, Libra is actually the sign that is associated with Venus. And Mars being in Libra is receiving the influence of Venus, receiving the influence of the feminine, and the influence of the feminine in a place of harmony and beauty. Taking those two themes of Mars and Libra, beauty, harmony, balance, and equality too. So Mars got to go in retrograde in that sign and look deep within. What is harmony? What is balance? How to do things that are contributing to beauty, harmony, and equality, getting more of the Venusian essence. Was in retrograde from March 1st till May 19th. And then we had the new moon in the sign of Pisces right here. 10 degrees of Pisces. And it was a new moon that conjuncted Chiron. So, of course, healing, a big catalyst for healing. And what was really interesting is this new moon happened exactly 9 hours before Mars went direct. So Mars was stationary at that moment of new moon in Pisces with conjuncting Chiron. Mars had stopped, and 9 hours after the new moon, it went direct. As we know in astrology, nothing is a coincidence. So there was a moment of stillness with this new moon happening, conjuncting Chiron, emphasizing healing, emphasizing also, the Pisces symbolism of any illusions or escapism, things that have been suppressed and perhaps denied for a very long time within the masculine and within our subconscious mind. That all took place right before Mars was getting ready to go direct and move forward in a different way, still in the sign of Libra. And at the same time, Mars was conjuncting the North Node in Libra. So the moving forward to a place of harmony and beauty, equality, while being supported by this new moon calling for a deeper healing. And then looking at Venus and what Venus was doing, she was actually, she finished her retrograde. Venus was in retrograde that year as well. And she finished her retrograde in the sign of Capricorn just a month before this, January 30th. In the sign of Capricorn, structure, maturity, responsibility. So again, Venus in this position of offering somewhat solid ground for Mars to move forward in a new direction and in a direction of more balance and harmony. And also Venus was conjuncting Pluto January 24th. That was, again, a month before this. Anytime we have contact with Pluto, either Mars, Venus, or any of our personal planets, definitely transformation, death, and rebirth. So Venus got a taste of that Plutonian energy of rebirth. And again, in the sign of Capricorn, very strong, solid, mature, with integrity. And then sextiling Chiron in the sign of Pisces, supporting the healing process that was activated during this new moon. Now moving into, still in 2014, we're looking at a month after that new moon, looking at a new moon in Aries. And those are things that definitely to pay attention to, because Aries, like I said, is associated with Mars. So the new moon in Aries took place March 30th. And just like 2012 that I showed at the beginning, we have a new moon conjuncting Uranus again in the sign of Aries. So it's like the concept and the theme of Aries and Mars and Uranus, I'm going to keep seeing it over and over again throughout those years, awakening, innovation, doing things differently. We got to step out of the box, a revolution that needs to happen, within the masculine, within our even masculine identity. What is a masculine energy? And a new way of doing it and redefining what it is. And if we see here with this new moon conjuncting Uranus, Venus is in the sign of Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, or Aquarius is associated with Uranus. And Venus was trining Mars at that same time. While Mars was still in retrograde. So Mars was retrograding in Libra, and Venus offering her support again. And in the sign of Aquarius, it's this newness. It's based in humanitarian there's a humanitarian flavor, and I see to some degree Aquarius associate with compassion, just like Pisces, and especially when Venus is in Aquarian, there's this a broader perspective of humanity and how do we need to reinvent ourselves. So there was again support being offered to Mars in retrograde by Venus. So the fact that Mars was in retrograde in Libra, and the concept or the theme of harmony and beauty, the harmony between feminine and masculine, that we just got another activation of inviting us and moving us in the direction of starting to harmonize the feminine and the masculine rather than this power struggle. And moving, there's going to be quite a bit here in 2014 because, like I said, it's a big year for Mars. And still continuing Mars retrograding in Libra. And now we are looking at the full moon that took place April 15th of 2014. And because it was a full moon and a lunar eclipse. As we know, eclipses are, I see them as portals. They're like gateways. New moon, full moon are always very powerful. But then when we add an eclipse to it, even if it's just a partial eclipse, there's definitely more power. There's definitely more intensity. There's definitely more attention that the universe is calling for us. So we had a lunar eclipse in Aries, moon in Libra and sun in Aries, 25 degrees in this opposition. And again, we seeing the themes of Mars and Venus, moon with a Venusian energy, and the sun with the martial energy of Aries. So that was a big opening, and the fact that Mars was still in retrograde, pretty close to the moon, 9 degrees, depending on how you practice astrology. Some astrologers would say this is a conjunction. But nevertheless, the moon was definitely, Mars was definitely in the area of the moon and the north node of the moon, and very much connected to the eclipse. So another big activation and invitation in the sign of Libra to harmonize, to connect to more beauty, to connect to more gentleness, and move forward in that direction and create. Mars is the creator to some degree. It's that force within us to create and to move forward, but to move forward in the direction of harmony and equality, and for the masculine to start paying more attention to that and look within for those qualities, and not just to look outside themselves, being in retrograde. And during this full moon, Mars was squaring. I mean, that's a huge factor that we are looking at here. Mars was squaring Pluto in Capricorn and Jupiter right here in Cancer. So there was a big T-square. Mars, again, being pressurized and being challenged by these two giants. And even though Pluto is a small little planet, but it's a giant when it comes to the energy that Pluto offers, and definitely Jupiter as the giant. Jupiter in Cancer, associated with the moon during a lunar eclipse, nurturing the inner child, coming back to this nurturing energy and expanding that, growing by learning how to nurture ourselves, how to nurture each other. And then Pluto in Capricorn, and that's the integrity piece, and gotta start acting with more integrity, with more maturity, with more responsibility. And all of that pressure is being put on Mars, still in retrograde. And again, we've got a cardinal grand cross, because Mars, at the same time of this full moon, was opposing Uranus. So again, we're having Uranus in the picture and Mercury conjunction right down here, opposing Mars during the full moon. And a cardinal grand cross, cardinal is the initiation, it's starting something new. And looking at Venus and what Venus was doing during the same time. So while Mars is being totally challenged in so many aspects of squares and oppositions, Venus is sitting in Pisces, full of compassion, conjuncting Chiron, again, healing, sextiling Pluto in Capricorn, again, offering transformation through healing, and right in between Neptune and Chiron. So a lot of compassion, from the feminine that we needed to cultivate as well as women, looking at the masculine, just going through it. And because there's so much anger within the feminine of being so mistreated by the masculine for so many generations. It's no small thing to be able, as the feminine, regardless if you are a woman or a man, but especially for women, to be able to let go and release the anger and really forgive. This is forgiveness and compassion right here, this trio, while all this crazy stuff is happening with so much pressure being put on Mars. And again, Mars is still in retrograde here. Moving to a month later, so we're looking at the new moon. So that was the eclipse season back in 2014. We had that lunar eclipse, and then we're moving into the new moon and a solar eclipse right here in the sign of Taurus. So again, we're looking at the theme of Venus. So we have a new moon with a Venusian flair to it. And while Venus is still very compassionate, very forgiving, right in Pisces here, maybe going through some chaos, maybe going through confusion, absolutely, which is a big part of the healing journey of moving through that chaotic, maybe confusing time, and maybe bursting some illusions and some delusions as well. So Mars is still in retrograde here, in the sign of Libra, and it was squaring Pluto and Capricorn, that T-square that we were talking about, and looking at the Uranian energy and the influence. Mars is still, during this new moon, just like the full moon and the eclipse that we just looked at, new moon, Mars opposing Uranus. So again, there's that pull to innovate, to do things differently. We've got a revolution that needs to happen while Mars is still in retrograde. And then after that, I just put that on the notes. I don't think I have a chart for that, but Mars, once it went direct May 19th, after all the craziness that it went through during the eclipse season and being in retrograde and pressurized by Pluto, by Jupiter, by Uranus, Mars comes out of retrograde. And by August, it was conjuncting the planet Saturn in the sign of Scorpio. And there was a conjunction for a couple of weeks there, August and September. And as we know, Saturn is can be the opposite of Mars. If Mars just want to go and do first thing, think later, Saturn is the reminder for Mars to slow down, boy. Where is your integrity? Where is your responsibility? You can't just run around and do whatever you want to do, but we've got to learn a few lessons here. And of course, in the sign of Scorpio, which was very intense a couple of years for all of us, probably, Saturn in Scorpio is there's depth to it. There's again the theme of transformation, death, rebirth, the alchemist of taking the shadows. You know, when Mars got to meet Saturn in Scorpio, there was a big, whoa, I've got to look at my shadows. I've got to look at some dark corners and slow down enough to be able acknowledge all these feelings, all these emotions, and how to transform, how to come out the other side that much stronger after everything it had gone through during that year of being in retrograde and the eclipses. And then we moving into the full moon and eclipse right here. Yep. So we again looking at an eclipse in Aries and Libra. Moon is in Aries, and again we're looking at an eclipse that is conjuncting Uranus in the sign of Aries, associated with Mars. Keep seeing it over and over again, the touching of Uranus on those portals, on those openings that kept on happening throughout 2012, 2014, and this year as well. And Mars during this eclipse, Mars is down here squaring Uranus. So again, we've got the connection between Mars and Uranus and a tension point too. So it's not an easy thing. Mars is very fiery here in Sagittarius. Definitely just want to move forward and conquer new horizons and wants to grow. But at the same time being challenged by Uranus and with the moon to, okay, you want to move forward into new horizons, but you've got to do things differently. It's squaring the south node of the moon, so it's leaving the past behind. We can't just do things in this Martian way, the Aries do first, think later. That was a big trigger during this eclipse. And then on the other side of that, Mars was in sextile to the sun in Libra, the north node of the moon, and Venus. So we're looking at all this Venusian energy with Venus in the picture in a harmonious aspect to Mars. Again, offering support, offering harmony, offering balance, and just giving that light, the light at the end of the tunnel. And again, the North Node in Libra asking us to move into that direction and asking Mars to move in that direction. Also having the grand trine that we had here in a fire grand trine, Moon, Uranus, Mars, and Jupiter. So if the slide before that, we saw the big pressure that was on Mars from Jupiter and Pluto, this time we've got more stability being offered to Mars by the energies of the Moon and Uranus and Jupiter in the sign of Leo, and connecting more to love and connecting more to the heart. Now we're looking at the new moon and the solar eclipse. So that was the second eclipse season in 2014. And the new moon and solar eclipse in Scorpio, 0 degree Scorpio. So right at the beginning of Scorpio, new moon and Venus, a solar eclipse in Scorpio. And Scorpio, of course, is associated with the planet Mars. So that was another activation for transformation with a flavor of Venus here, helping Mars again, or giving the influence of that Venusian energy, deep transformation, reevaluation of deep emotions and deep attachments. The South Node, again, getting a flare of Uranus. So the eclipse is connected to Uranus. Again, the awakening, that theme keeps coming up and up and up again until Uranus moves to Taurus in 2018. Mars is right here in Sag still, trining Jupiter and Leo, and Mars kind of gets a little break here, actually. Get some support from Jupiter in Leo. It's in fire sign like it likes to be. So all the lessons that it got to learn in the previous months and the previous years, it kind of gets a break here to take a breather. And in the sign of Sagittarius is looking at, okay, where am I going? What are the new horizons that I'm heading towards, and the new actions that I'm going to take? When with the North Node is still in the sign of Libra, so that's the direction to go to. I know, Linda, it's 3:48 right now. Do you want me to have some room for questions or keep going?
Keep going. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, we finished with 2014. Like you saw, that was a big year for Mr. Mars, and then 2016 was not easy, and this year was not easy for any of us. I kept tracking. I kept looking throughout this year, and that's why it was the catalyst for all of this. Of like, wow, Mars is going through it this year, and then looking back, I'm like, oh my God, no wonder. The masculine is really now eager, is seeking this healing. It's in pain, and it doesn't really know how to express it. So 2016, we're looking at the first eclipse season that we had in the spring, new moon and a solar eclipse in Pisces, and it was conjuncting Chiron. So again, healing, deep healing. And we know 2016 with the nodes in Pisces and in Virgo, it's letting go of the chaos, letting go of the delusion, letting go of escapism, moving into the earth reality and purity, and working with the earth, working with nature, being of service. Now Mars enters Sagittarius 1 day before the eclipse. So Mars is in 1 degree of Sagittarius. It was 1 day before we had this eclipse. In Sagittarius, again, truth, expansion, and growth, and then being supported by this new moon and solar eclipse. That was a big opening for more healing and releasing. And then we had the full moon and the lunar eclipse, again, looking at Aries and Libra axis, with the sun in Aries and the moon in Libra, Venus and Mars. Mars is in Sagittarius right here, in sextile with the moon. So again, there's a lot of harmony